Welcome back to another episode of the Consistency Corner podcast, where our goal is to help you lighten the mental load of marketing. Today, we're going to talk about something that doesn't get discussed very honestly in marketing conversations. And that's what happens after the strategy is created or after you have a really great insight or idea. There's this moment where something clicks and you feel clear and maybe even excited, and you're like, okay, this is what I need to do. And then somehow, a few weeks later, nothing has actually been done. That is super common. It's super common when you are busy working in your business, you're serving clients. It's super common when you are a mom who has a life and things to do outside of your business. And it's super common because so many of us are already working at our capacity. We are working up to the bandwidth that we actually have. So learning a new strategy, learning a new tactic, having a new idea becomes difficult to implement, not because we're not motivated or not because we're not disciplined or not because we're not capable, but it's because we're already doing so much. And what I've realized is that this doesn't mean that the insight wasn't real. It means that clarity on its own is surprisingly fragile. That aha moment, that light bulb moment is great, but we have to keep the light on and keep going and build the rest of the room and decorate the room once we turn the light on, right? One of the most helpful distinctions that I've learned is the difference between inspiration and integration. And often we think oh, I'm not motivated. I need to get inspired or I need to get motivated. Inspiration is that moment. It's that idea. It's that realization. It's that this makes sense. Integration is what happens when that idea actually gets built into your week, into your decisions, into your systems, into your routines, into your priorities, and comes to life. Learning, brainstorming can feel so productive. I am the queen of learning. I am going to download every freebie. I'm going to opt into your low ticket course. I'm going to take your workshop. I'm going to listen to your podcast. I'm going to read your books. I love to learn, but consuming more knowledge isn't actually moving my business forward if I don't apply the knowledge. And so consuming ideas is great up to a point. At some point, we've got to act on them. Having a Google Doc with a plan all mapped out is the first step, but it's not the last step. It's not the only step. And so often we get these light bulb moments, we get these insights, and we grab our phone and we voice note ourselves, or we open up the Google Doc and we map out the plan, or we think through the details, but then it just sits there because we haven't figured out how to expand our capacity and integrate the idea into our current scenario. And most of the time, the problem is not that you don't know what to do. It's that there's no structure helping you carry the idea forward. In the last episode of the podcast, if you haven't already listened to that, I'll give you a quick recap. And we talked about a little bit of marketing as a road trip. Oh no, this was 2 episodes ago. I record all of these in a batch, so sometimes I forget which order they went in. But 2 episodes ago, mid-February, we had an episode where I talked a little bit about how marketing is like a road trip. And your goals, your business goals, are the destination. And your capacity and your bandwidth is the gas tank. And that part matters because you can't plan a road trip that you don't have the energy for. You're not going to get there if the gas tank isn't full enough, or if we don't have stops along the way to fill it up. But there's another piece of this analogy that I want to talk about today. And that's how to make the road trip a little bit more fun. And that can be by having a road trip buddy. That can be having a navigator. That can be having somebody as a co-pilot to go along with you. Now, I'm going to be honest, as a mom and as a 6'2" in the human design, world of human design, if you're not into human design, that's okay. I'll give you a quick recap. 6'2" is like my type, and the 2 is the hermit, meaning sometimes I need alone time. And I do. Sometimes I need alone time. I like working from home. I like working by myself. Sometimes as a mom, a solo trip to the grocery store is like the momcation I didn't know I needed. But sometimes, particularly on a long journey, we need community. We need somebody to lean on. We need somebody to tell us stories and ask us questions and tell us jokes and manage the playlist while we are on the drive. And solo driving requires these constant micro decisions and constant scanning the horizon for what's coming up. And it can be a little bit more tiring when we do it by ourselves. Road trips are harder when you are the one navigating, driving, and deciding when to stop. And let's throw out there that they're also harder if you got little ones in the back seat screaming about who touched who and so took so and so's toy. But that's a real life road trip, not a business road trip. But in the business sense, like you have your clients. Your clients are like in the back seat of the road trip, but you're up here trying to drive the bus and get to the point, the destination of like this new goal that you have. And it can just feel so much easier when we have a co-pilot, when we have a navigator, even if it's just a friend along for the ride. And that's where community and processing support together in community can not just matter emotionally, but can also matter strategically. One of the most underrated tools in business, I think, is simply thinking out loud with the right people. Now, to be fair, there are two types of people, two types of processors. When I learned this, it was a big light bulb moment for me. So I'm going to share it with you. There are people who think to talk. So, like, they really think before they talk. And then there are people who talk to think, meaning they need to talk through what's going on in their brain in order to conclude their thought. If you didn't already know, I am a talk to think. I will like often say in conversation to somebody, like, I just need to talk this through, or I just need to think this out loud because I'm trying to process something and I'm what's called an external processor. And even if you are an internal processor, sometimes it can be helpful to have some validation from somebody who is looking at the scenario with you, but is looking at it from outside the Coke bottle because you are looking at it from inside the Coke bottle. And when you're inside the Coke bottle, inside your business, it can be difficult to read the label. It can be difficult to see things clearly because the Coke bottle is a little bit curved. It's a little bit beveled. There's a frost to the glass. And so having somebody who is outside the Coke bottle talking you through can be really helpful in making sound decisions. And having somebody who is good at asking questions versus giving advice is even more powerful. Because a lot of the times when you go to a friend, someone in your network, your spouse, a coach, whomever it might be, and you ask for advice, you're not always asking for advice. You're asking for the space to process. And if you're trying to process it on your own, there's perspectives that you don't have. And so if somebody can share perspectives by asking questions, it can really dial up the brightness on that light bulb and give you the kind of clarity that is helpful. And if that person can be with you as you integrate what that light was shining on, it can be transformative because that person has been with you through the decision-making process and they're like along for the rest of the ride. A single good conversation can absolutely change how you think about your business. But momentum usually doesn't come from one conversation. It comes from continuity, from not having to start from scratch every time a new question comes up. It's even like when you're working with ChatGPT and you start a new chat because like maybe the last chat was getting really long or like you lost the last chat or I don't know what it is. And you have to keep giving it the context and you have to be like, okay, remember we talked about this and remember this and I made this decision and remember this has evolved. And like it doesn't know if you don't tell it. But if you can stick with an existing thread of conversation, it has so much more of the history of the decision making and the evolution of what you're trying to work on. Now, it's a robot. It forgets sometimes. You got to remind it. But you know how powerful that can be to have the context as the conversation continues. Think of it as like when you're on hold with customer service for, I don't know, let's say like the cable company. No, the internet company. This happened to us when our internet was acting weird a while ago. I'm on the phone with customer service and they're like, okay, try this, try this, try this. Of course, when, I finally got to a human, I'm like, I did this, I did this, I did this. And they're like, okay, try all these things. None of those things work. They transfer me to another person. I got to go through the whole story again with the other person. I got to go through the whole, like, what happened before, what I did, because it was a new conversation with a new person who didn't have the context. And it was super frustrating for me because I had to relive the problems all over again when I just wanted to get to the solution. And because continuity is so helpful in decision making and turning insights into action and actually integrating them, a container can be a great way to keep that clarity intact, to keep that light on. And the realization is actually that led me to where I am today in my business, like what I am offering in my business. Because here's the thing, the Consistency Corner is here to lighten the mental load of marketing. That's our mission. That's what we do. We lighten the mental load of marketing. And for our done for you retainer clients, that's how we do it. We do it for you. We come up with the strategy in collaboration, and then our team literally does it for you. And here on the podcast, we have conversations where like I can talk to you and then you have, some insights that you can take and do on your own. But hopefully in these conversations, it helps lighten decisions. It helps normalize the mental load and help you understand that what you're feeling is totally normal. But I wanted something that was like in between where I could help you lighten the mental load of marketing, even if you weren't ready for done for you support. And I've had conversations with my community inside of our mixer, inside of just, DMs on Instagram, voice notes. Your girl loves a good voice note. And the pattern that I saw was that business owners had good ideas, solid instincts, and things that they wanted to launch into the world, but they were carrying all of their marketing decisions alone. And so they were second guessing, or they were saying they were going to do the thing, but then not actually doing the thing. And they didn't need done for you support yet because this was all things that they could do. And they also didn't need to keep reinventing the wheel and coming up with new ideas, new strategies. They needed somebody to validate their ideas and say, yes, this is a good idea. And someone that could go along for the ride and say, have you thought about this? Did you consider that? What if we tweaked this? And worked through the process with them as they integrated. And so that's why we are opening the doors to the Strategy Studio. And the Strategy Studio is a Slack-based membership for mom founders who are still in the DIY era of marketing, but are ready to get some support when it comes to strategy and actually implementing. Because inside this space, we work together on your strategy, and I'm here to help hold you accountable to actually implement and help you figure out how to do this with your real capacity. And I want to be really clear about what the space is and what it isn't. My strength in this space isn't telling you what to do. It isn't giving you a cookie cutter framework or templates, although I can do that. And if it makes sense for you, we might do that. But my strength is really, and the role I want to serve for you is asking the questions that help you decide what to do and how to do it and actually do it when it comes to marketing your business. The Strategy Studio is not what I would consider a coaching container where you're like handed a plan and told, go do it. It's also not a retainer where we just do it for you and you get it done. It is a done with you space where strategy turns into action through conversation, through feedback, through follow through, connection, and community. I'm able to help you make adjustments mid-road trip because I know your capacity and I know the backstory and the context. And so we can talk about it as you're building that new thing you want to launch, as you're trying out this new platform, as you're refining the way you send your emails or the copy on your sales page for a lead magnet that isn't quite converting the way you wanted it to. We can talk about all of those things, and it's about making decisions to move forward, not just motivating you and inspiring you with like the you can do it garbage that you can, to be honest, get from ChatGPT. It's funny, I tell ChatGPT, like, listen, if it sounds like motivational fluff that any business coach on the internet could say, I'm not going to say it. Don't put that in my content. Still learning. I got to tell it every so often, like, we're not going to say that here. But this isn't about being pushed. It's about being supported while you're making moves. So what it looks like is, like I said, at the high level, it's a Slack-based membership. You can either opt in for the year where you'll get the most support because you have me for the whole year and we're going to do this thing together, or you can join month to month. Every single month, we have a workshop that we do together as a group to help you make some decisions or move forward on a specific strategy. We have office hours in Slack where I can review content, we can talk through decisions, and you'll have access to replays of every other training that I do as we build it in real time. And although I have like idea of what I want to teach every month throughout the year, I haven't recorded all those workshops because I want to teach and talk through what you actually need. So, based upon what the founding members are looking for, that's going to shape the curriculum of the strategy studio. But having somebody in Slack that you can send a quick voice memo to, that you can share an idea with and say, like, what do you think? That's the real magic, along with that like body double type co-working partner who's going to follow up with you and check in with you next week on office hours and say, hey, how is this thing going? How is it coming along? What support do you need to actually get it done? So whether you join or not, I want to leave you with a bigger idea today. And the real takeaway is that I want you to walk away from this podcast is that whether you join a membership, you hire a coach, the insight that you have from education and from inspiration is only the starting line. Momentum and movement and action is required to get to the finish line. And often that momentum requires some sort of structure and support. It requires a fun playlist to keep you going, to keep your energy up at, 11 p.m. when you're getting tired. It requires check-ins at the gas station to fill your gas tank and also to fill up your coffee cup or your snacks. And you can choose what that support looks like and where it comes from. And as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, who you choose to go along with you on the road trip is one of the most important choices, in my opinion, because the company that we keep is what makes the journey what it is. And I know this could be motivational fluff, but like I really do mean this. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. And I know, like enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride. Blah, barf. I know we could put it on a button or a coffee cup and it's so cliche. But gosh, it's true. I'll give you a little sports story here. Last year, Scotty Scheffler, who's the number one golfer in the world, was being interviewed before a tournament. And I don't even remember what tournament it was, but they were asking him about winning, basically. And he was like, it's not about winning. It's about going out every day and having fun, doing what I do, and being surrounded by people I enjoy while I do what I do. Because when I win and they hand me that trophy, it feels good for a little bit, but then the very next day, we're right back to the journey. And so we spend so much more time in the journey than we do at the destination. So having support on that journey, having community on that journey who gets it, who understands, who is not just like a passing car on the same road who you never talk to, can really make the journey so much more enjoyable. If something really matters to you, it deserves more than a moment of inspiration. It deserves you stepping in the driver's seat and going on the journey to get it there. And I'm cheering you on. I am cheering you on no matter what. Whatever your ideas are, girl, I'm cheering you on. I know you can do it. I'm so proud of you for the work that you have done because running a business as a mom and as a human is a lot. It's a lot. And I see you. And I'd love to see you inside of the strategy studio. If done with you support makes sense for you in this season and some decision-making support makes sense for you in that sort of container, send me a DM on Instagram if you have questions about the studio at all. I'd love to see you there, and we'll see you in the next episode.